Hi, I'm Melissa, and welcome to this month's live from at the Reagan Library. Remember, we do these on the first Wednesday of every month. Now this is our second unorthodox edition of our live froms because, like most businesses across the country, the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library and Museum is still closed to the public until further notice. Last month during the closure, we gave you a virtual tour of the Reagan Library galleries. This month, we're going to give you a virtual tour of the exterior campus. Now, normally if I was to tour you around the exterior campus, I would give you a walking tour. And since I can't be at the library, it inspired me to come on out into my neighborhood and take a walk. So thank you for coming on a walk with me. We also want to give a thank you and a shout out to our social media followers. Like last month, we are filling this live from with a lot of the photographs you've submitted on those channels. So thank you so much for following us, for sharing your photos. Please, we encourage you to keep doing that. The Reagan Library campus is situated atop a hill on Presidential Drive. It's a 1 mile upward windy road from the bottom of the roadway to the top of our hilltop. We like to call it our shining city on a hill, and it has beautiful vistas surrounding the entire campus. It's just beautiful. We hope you come take a look for yourself one day.
I've spoken of the shining city all my political life, but I don't know if I ever quite communicated what I saw when I said it. But in my mind, it was a tall, proud city built on rocks stronger than oceans, windswept, God-blessed, and teeming with people of all kinds living in harmony and peace.
As I mentioned a moment ago, we are located 1 mile up from the main roadway. As you drive up Presidential Drive, you are greeted by presidential banners of all of our country's presidents. This incredible facility opened to the public on November 4th, 1991. 5 U.S. presidents and 6 first ladies attended the opening ceremonies, which was the first time that many U.S. presidents had ever gathered together before. Located on over 300 acres overlooking the Pacific Ocean in Simi Valley, California, the buildings embody California mission-style architecture. This location was picked among 30 other locations within California because of its pristine surroundings and proximity to the Los Angeles metropolitan area. Upon seeing it for the first time, Ronald Reagan fell in love with the open vistas, beautiful mountains, and horse trails that surrounded the property at the time. In fact, President Reagan used to love to visit the library. From the library's opening in 1991 through 1999, President Reagan would visit 6 to 8 times per year. He often visited unannounced so he could surprise visitors in the galleries. Once on our campus, visitors enter our main courtyard, where they are greeted by a heroic statue of President Reagan, made by artist Glenna Goodacre. Guests love to take their photo with the president, and many hold onto his outstretched hand in their photos. To the right of our courtyard is our rose garden, which was built to recreate the White House rose garden. Roses and trees adorn the area, and a few times per year we hold events in this tranquil space. In 2016, we added this Ronald Reagan statue, which is a replica of the statue of Governor Ronald Reagan, currently in the state capitol in Sacramento. Oddly enough, on the west side of our property, you can find our replica of the White House South Lawn. This area looks out to the Conejo Valley with stunning views all the way out to the Pacific Ocean. During the year, we use this space for many of our community events. For example, on President's Day and the 4th of July, the South Lawn is turned into a family fun activity center. Back in 2004, when we received our Marine One helicopter, we had the VH-3A helicopter land on our South Lawn to recreate its White House landings as Marine One. But on a normal day, we encourage guests to stroll our South Lawn, have a picnic on the grass, or just come to admire the views. On June 12, 1987, Ronald Reagan spoke at the Brandenburg Gate, boldly telling Mikhail Gorbachev to tear down this wall. And in November of 1989, the wall came down. On April 12, 1990, President Reagan stood next to this piece of the Berlin Wall, which had just arrived for display at the Reagan Library. Since the library opened in 1991, over 8 million people have come to our hilltop and seen this wall. We encourage everyone to come up and literally touch a piece of history and learn the wall's lesson of freedom and democracy for all. In 1982, President Reagan said, "When I took office in January of 1981, I was appalled by what I found. American planes that couldn't fly and American ships that couldn't sail. So President Reagan began his Peace Through Strength initiatives, rebuilding our national defenses and the importance of a strong military. To showcase his Peace Through Strength initiatives, the Reagan Library currently has both an F-14 Tomcat and an F-117 stealth fighter on display. This F-14 represents one of the 2 Tomcats from the Black Ace Squadron that took part in the August 1981 encounter with 2 Libyan fighter planes. And how did we get this plane here? Between the late night of August 20th, 2005 and early morning of August 21st, 2005, this 30,000-pound aircraft was trucked from Point Mugu Naval Air Base in Point Hueneme, California, to the Reagan Library. And on August 22nd, 2005, during an outdoor morning ceremony, the plane was then craned over our 30-foot-high colonnade and was placed permanently on our Peace Pavilion. The F-117a Nighthawk was developed at the height of the Cold War by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works. The F-117 Nighthawk was the world's first operational stealth aircraft. Known as stealth fighters, the F-117's angular shape was designed to reflect radar waves and was bolstered by the use of a radar-absorbing material. Because the aircraft was only to fly at night, it was painted black to make it more difficult to discern against the night sky. This F-117A, which went into service in May of 1984 during President Reagan's administration, has the tail number 803 and the nickname Unexpected Guest. This particular F-117 flew more combat sorties than all other F-117s combined. On December 7, 2019, during a ribbon-cutting ceremony with the Secretary of the Air Force and the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, this F-117 was officially added to the Reagan Library's Peace Pavilion. On October 30, 2019, a large fire named the Easy Fire after the street it started on ravaged Simi Valley and encircled the Reagan Library. Pushed by 65-mile-per-hour winds, the fire scarred the library's property, including eating through much of the landscaping that leads up to the library's hilltop. As we record this virtual tour, the vegetation is currently being replaced, including 34 new Tuscan olive trees that are being planted alongside Presidential Drive. Additionally, a single old-growth, old gnarly mission olive tree is being planted in the center of that circle, which stands at about 14 to 16 feet tall, with new grass being planted around the tree as well. We can't wait for you to come to visit and see it for yourself. To honor the values and ideals for which our country's sons and daughters sacrificed, to honor their commitment to duty and country, to thank them for their service and our freedom, and to make sure that they are never, ever forgotten, the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library and Museum unveiled a Gold Star Families Memorial Monument on November 12, 2018, to honor the families of servicemen and women who sacrificed their lives while serving in the military. The idea of installing the Gold Star Families Memorial Monument at the Reagan Library came to us from actor and philanthropist and true friend to our nation's military and veterans, Gary Sinise. Gary was working with the Herschel Woody Williams Medal of Honor Foundation to establish permanent Gold Star Families Memorial Monuments in communities around the country, and he believed the Reagan Library would be a fitting location. We couldn't have agreed more. We are so very honored to have this monument at the Reagan Library, and we encourage you to visit it while you are on our campus. The Gold Star Family Memorial Monument is adjacent to President and Mrs. Reagan's memorial site on the west side of our campus. President Reagan was laid to rest in this spot on June 11, 2004. During a sunset ceremony that concluded his week-long state funeral, the president wished to be buried here at the library, with his memorial placed under a California live oak and facing his beloved Pacific Ocean. During President Reagan's funeral, Senator John Danforth delivered the homily and read from the Sermon on the Mount. Until her passing, Nancy Reagan visited her husband every year on the anniversary of his death. On the 10th anniversary, she said, "It is really hard for me to believe that Ronnie has been gone for 10 years. I still feel his presence every day and often find him in my dreams at night." On March 6, 2016, Mrs. Reagan passed away peacefully at her home in Bel Air, California, at the age of 94. On Friday, March 11th, a funeral service was held at the Reagan Library in her honor, where she was buried next to her husband, just 6 days past the Reagan's wedding anniversary of March 4, 1952. Etched into the memorial site's back wall is a quote from Ronald Reagan, which reads,
"And I know in my heart that man is good, that what is right will always eventually triumph, and that there is purpose and worth to each and every life."
Thank you for joining us today on this virtual tour of the Reagan Library campus. We hope we inspired you to come visit one day once our doors are reopened, and we encourage you to share this video with your family and friends. Just as we did last month, we want to remind you that if your children are at home who are students, we have great curriculum and resources for students, teachers, and parents all on our website. Simply go to reaganfoundation.org and click on the Education tab. It's all right there. And before we go, just a heartfelt thanks to the doctors, the nurses, the first responders, the emergency medical teams who are risking their lives day in and day out to keep America safe and healthy. God bless all of you.
But if the Reagan Library is anything like its counterparts, Most of those who enter these doors will not be academics. No, they will be ordinary people of all ages, backgrounds, and political persuasions, eager to examine their past and explore a history not always learned in school. For them, this institution will be a time capsule of American growth and greatness, covering more than a single presidency, honoring more than a single president.